swing against the Conservatives since 1935. Tony Blair called it a stunning victory. Labour's candidate, Ian Pearson, polled more than 28,000 votes. The Conservatives got more than 7,000, and the Liberal Democrats just over 3,000. There was a 29% swing to Labour.
Preparing for that journey to Westminster to take up his seat, Ian Pearson was this morning at a photo call with his family. But the man who has clinched Labour their biggest by-election swing since the Second World War was dismissing claims that the size of his victory was based on the temporary votes of protesting Tories.
This isn't just a mid-term by-election blip or anything like that. It isn't the voters of Dudley West saying, pull your socks up, John Major. It's the voters of Dudley West saying, this is terminal, John Major, we want you out.
I hereby declare that Ian Pearson has been duly elected to serve as Member of Parliament for the Dudley West constituency.
The declaration a mere formality. The Labour win had been widely predicted. But for the Conservatives, ejected from a seat they've held for 15 years, their candidate was playing down the defeat as a short-term loss.
It's always disappointing when the Conservative vote doesn't come out, but it is not, in my view, votes lost to the Labour Party. They are votes which will return to us as the choices become ever clearer between the parties in the run-up to the next general election.
At the local Labour Party headquarters, the celebrations continued until daylight. Few of the campaigners had expected to win by such a margin. Despite Tory claims that this result could well have been a mid-term protest vote against the government, it is the clear view of Labour that Ian Pearson could even build on his 20,000 majority at a general election when boundary changes make this a stronger Labour seat. Adrian Britton, ITN, Dudley.
The Prime Minister insisted today there'd be no change in Conservative policies in the wake of the Dudley defeat. He said the government must stick to its guns and make sure individuals feel the benefits of its policies. But at Westminster, there are already more rumblings of discontent from the right wing of the party.
Divided over Europe, defeated on VAT. Now for the Prime Minister, losing Dudley West is another big setback. At a constituency function this morning, Mr Major admitted as much, but appeared to lay some blame at the feet of Tory rebels.
It was a poor result, but I think some good can come out of it. Providing people realise within the Conservative Party that they must pull in the same direction for the same cause at the same time and against the same opponents, then I believe that will dramatically transform the political environment in the United Kingdom.
It was the party chairman, Jeremy Hanley, who was touring the television and radio studios this morning on a damage limitation exercise. He pointed out that Labour won on a low turnout.
It wasn't that people switched in large numbers to the Labour Party. What it was that our voters stayed at home. The jury is out. They want to make sure that they're going to feel and share in the recovery.
But Tony Blair wasn't having any of that. It was, he said, a devastating defeat for the government and a sign that voters really are convinced by the new-look Labour Party.
We are sure that the scale of this was not simply to do with the unpopularity of the Conservatives, but people are turning to the new Labour Party, they're liking what they see, they're liking the ideas, the policies of the party.
For many Tory backbenchers, particularly those on the right of the party, the Dudley defeat is proof the government must change direction.
We and the government have got to listen to what the country is telling us, and indeed what our own supporters have been telling us for a very long time. We've really got to bring forward the kind of policies that they expect a Conservative government to be producing.
The impact of the new Labour leader, the so-called Blair factor, was apparently important in the victory at Dudley West. Tony Blair knows that only too well, and his message to colleagues today was, let's build on the success. There's no room for complacency. QPIM ITN, Westminster.
Well, the Minister often described as the Cabinet's chief troubleshooter, David Hunt, is in our Westminster studio now. Mr Hunt, trouble is what you've got this morning, isn't it? Colleagues of yours are saying that people don't realise that the economic recovery is here. Surely the message, though, is that people are yearning for a change.
No, I don't think that's the message. In fact, this by-election, sadly, was won by the abstainers. There were 30,000 voters who voted in the last general election who didn't vote at this by-election. Sadly, most of those were our supporters. So we have to come out fighting now and fight to win the next general election.
Doesn't Mr Blair, though, appear young and vigorous? Don't you have a desperately difficult task to persuade the country that Mr Major is an effective leader?
Well, I spent some time in Dudley West. I didn't find there was strong support for Labour. There is a new look.
Well, hang on just a minute, Mr. Hunt. They won the by-election very convincingly.
No, but don't forget they got slightly fewer votes than they got at the general election. I didn't find there was strong support for Labour. There is a new look Labour Party, but what substance does it have? What does it stand for? It's decided that it's been wrong on all the important issues in politics for the last 10 years. It's now become, as the Liberals were, the party of protest. But that doesn't say much for its policies.
Well, you'll say, I'm sure, that you will be sticking to policies already in place, but isn't it actually time to make some serious changes?
No, I don't believe it is. We've had to take some pretty tough decisions. Some of them have been very unpopular, and we're paying the price for that. But they're decisions for the longer term. The medium to longer term is looking very good for the United Kingdom. The British people are exporting more than ever before, and the economy is stronger than any other major economy in Europe. So the signs are very good. What we have to do is to feed that through into improvements in the standard of living of everybody.
As you say, the exports are doing well, but people still feel jolly insecure about their jobs by and large, don't they? That's going to be a very difficult factor for you to overcome.
Yes, well, we have got an opposition that highlights every job loss as if it's a sequence of rising unemployment. In fact, unemployment has now fallen over the last 2 years by 500,000. And you've got a better chance of getting a job in the UK than any other economy in Europe. Now, what we've got to do is to get that message through and communicate much better than we have done in the immediate past.
Mr. Hunt, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Joining us now to look at the implications of the Dudley by-election is ITN's election analyst, Dr. COLN RALLINGS of Plymouth University. Dr. Rallings, the government, as we've seen, is trying to portray this result as just par for the course, what you can expect mid-term, but is there more to it than that?
Well, I think there is. The swing is, of course, a record one. That's really one of the points. But worse than that, really, only a quarter of people who voted Conservative in 1992 could be bothered to vote for them again yesterday. So they've lost over 27,000 voters. And I think more than that, it's worth comparing this with the Mid-Staffordshire by-election in 1990 that took place in a similar time in the last Parliament. Labour won that, but a swing of only 20% as against nearly 30%. And that was very much a single-issue election. It was about the poll tax. This time, however, there's much more general discontent. There almost seems to be in the country a feeling that it's time for a change.
Well, as you say, the Tories were pointing to the low turnout as being almost the only source of comfort for them. Was there any other little scrap of comfort they could have got from it?
I don't think so, and the slow turnout business is a bit rich. They called the by-election for December the 15th, and they knew, and indeed I suspect hoped, that people would be more interested in Christmas shopping than in elections. And of course many Labour supporters would also have been doing their Christmas shopping and not have bothered to have voted. Many people who voted Conservative last time voted Labour this. But Dudley only confirms what we've been seeing in the opinion polls and in the local elections which take place week after week up and down the country. Labour is now farther ahead and the Conservatives farther behind than has been the case in either of the last two parliaments. And the point is that as this parliament goes on, the Labour Party seems to have